Here's a tweet. On Jalen Milroe. He has enormous talent. It does appear as if whether or not when he is pressured, you would think a guy with his athletic ability, he's so big he can get away, and he did on a few occasions, made some nice throws, but the 2 interceptions were just, again, give Texas's defense credit for putting pressure on him to throw certain ways, but the 2 interceptions inside their own territory was awful. He doesn't make just the standard throw, but he makes one that can be really impressive because he gets away and has a great arm. But like you said, Paul, and Craig, we've meant the average workman-like bus driver quarterback at times is good enough to win at Alabama, but I'm not so sure that I saw that ability with who they are just to have a workman-like quarterback. Take away the picks, you can't. It happened. But I wonder if they just had somebody that could go 17 of 25 for 188 yards, if that would be enough for them the rest of the way.
Well, they didn't, it was all or nothing with them the other night. It was, and that can win you a lot of games when you have rough nights where, look, it's not going to be a night where you're going to put together a drive. It just, that's not today. But to win over the course of a season, you have to have an offense that can put together drives. So you need sometimes that you need an 8-play, 9-play drives as opposed to, we got this big play. Because if you get 3 big plays and you got 21 points off of big plays, that's great, but that's only the 3 big plays of the game. You've got to have that other time where you possess the ball, you don't give the other good team more opportunities to do it. Those things are important. Alabama did not do that the other night. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They just didn't, nothing sustained. If you...
The other guys on the other side of the ball...
Exactly, made it happen. Nothing sustained. And so... If that is the only time this happens to Alabama and they lose to Texas, then that probably is not surprising in the grand scheme of things that can't happen to. But Alabama had a 3 or 4 guy quarterback race that went all the way down into the last week. And you can maybe give Bama the benefit of the doubt, but they took a transfer in Tyler Buchner late. I don't know. I think they're going to...
They took a transfer after they've been through spring drills, right?
Yeah.
And realized, man, we might need some help.
And then Jalen Milroe still eventually won that job, but that could be because, Buchner's not ready yet. So they're going to continue to have this issue probably for the rest of the year. And for their sake, they hope that it gets slightly better. But I don't think that from what we saw against a really good team, that it's going to get any easier for them down the line.
A number of people thought that was going to be a problem for them, and it turned out, for at least right now, like that is the case. It just felt like watching Jalen Milroe, obviously incredible athlete. You saw some of the highlights they were showing of him getting loose, and he just, Texas did a really great job of not really letting him get loose.
Like loose.
Yeah, like he wasn't able to break off the giant run that was, a killer and a huge momentum swinger. Basically what it was just throw it up and get the big play. And it felt like watching an offense where the quarterback had, one hand tied behind their back almost. Does that make sense? It just felt like everything was, you had to full exertion to just try and get some yards or some play and just hope that you hit a big play. Because if you didn't hit a big play, you were absolutely screwed and you're not going to be able to move down the field.
Yeah, they weren't going to just methodically go down the field.
So it was like they were very one-dimensional. It was like the big play or nothing. And he hit on some big plays, to his credit. He had some nice balls thrown that, went for big plays and big scores, but just not nearly enough. And especially in a game where, on the other side, you talk about anything but one-dimensional. You had Sark out there just freaking wheeling and dealing with Quinn and that receiving core and Ja'Tavion Sanders and, mixing in the run, and the offensive line was they had the whole thing going. And then there was Alabama that had little to no run game and just Milroe throwing it up basically and hoping that it could connect. And it did, enough to make that a game there for a little while. But eventually when you started, when Texas would just immediately answer, it's if you got into that fight of having to just trade haymakers, Milroe couldn't do that over and over. It's just simply, there just wasn't enough substance to it to just... Because all Texas had to do is just throw everybody back there and make them have to drive down the field, make them have to do something other than hit the big play. I think he's going to be much better the more time that he gets, and over time will get better and improve as a prospect. But, yeah, right now he's very limited in what he and they can do, and that was very evident, especially when you go up against a really solid defense like Texas has. And I do think that those concerns going into the season, as much as sometimes you kind of wonder when you hear critiques about Saban Alabama, because some of it is like wish casting. Some of it is people just hoping that it's true. But in this case, there was something to it. There was something to them going and adding, Tyler Buchner as late as they did, and just some of the fog in terms of, the quarterback race as it was ongoing. So very interested in how they move that, or how they, do that moving forward, because Saban was asked about, like, did you think about changing quarterbacks at one point? He's like, yeah, I thought about it, but then Milroe hits like a big play, and you don't want to lose that momentum. So it's kind of a weird spot to try and do something all that different. But yeah, it just felt like they were very shorthanded in comparison to what Texas had on display.
Well, I was wondering a little bit later in the game, I was like, where are the Alabama receivers? Well, a lot of times they started making plays once they had a chance to get the ball in their hands when they were in the open field or opportunities, and they did. So the receivers are there, but can they just take their offensive line? Texas had 5 sacks, Alabama had none. That's a massive stat. That is something that is huge both ways for UT. Now,